that we know how to select some things, let's do some comparisons. I'm going to open two different images. We're going to try different tools to see which ones work better than others. And then we're going to do something ridiculous to show you why you would select something. I'm going to put a model named Karen on some beans. And so let's dive right in. I have opened juana.jpg, the same image that we've been working on this entire time. It's loaded up. One thing that we need to remember to do, though, is to go over to this background layer and click on the lock. We're going to get to why that is in a future session, but make sure you do that. And then what we want to do is go to File, Open, and then we're going to go over here and we're going to open Karen.psd. That's that right there. I'll click Open, and now we have a new image. Now notice in Photoshop here we have two different tabs. So we can have two items open at the same time, and we can go back and forth between those two things. So in this Karen file here, I'm going to double click on the hand so that we can see her filling the screen. Okay, let's compare those selection tools and see why one will work better in some situations and some in others. So remember in Juana, when we went over here and we had the magic wand tool, it had really significant issues because the background and Juana's hair are very similar in color and tone. And so Photoshop wasn't really able to figure out where Juana started and where the background started. So that wasn't very good. But we had great success when we used the object selection tool. And we just said, hey, select the subject. And so that new tool did a great job. But sometimes those old school tools were great. So over here in our Karen image, you'll notice that there is a huge amount of contrast between Karen and the background. The background is white. Karen is very dark hair and her outfit is very dark. So if we went over here and chose the magic wand tool, 3x3 average, our tolerance is 35, contiguous, and I hit the background, bam. Just like that, the background is selected. Okay, so clearly some of these tools will work better in some images than others. We can even go in and try this tool that didn't work, the quick selection tool. And if I drag this around Karen, notice that as I'm dragging, it works just fine. It selects the background. It's great. So what I want you to do after this session is open both of these images and try these tools, all these different selection tools, and try selecting these two different models and see which method works the best. Try the quick selection tools, try the magic wand tools, try the lasso tool, try the different options in the options bar. Get to know these selection tools because we're going to be using them quite a bit. So let me show you one more thing before we do the crazy Karen on beans, which is really going to be fun. And that is, there's another thing that we need to do when we're selecting items, and that is selecting what's not selected. It's called select inverse. When would we do that? Well, example right here is Karen. So right now I have the background selected, and what I want selected is Karen. We know we have the background selected because remember I selected this white area, and if I hit delete, you can see that the background goes away and not Karen. What if I wanted Karen and not the background? Well, I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that delete that I just did. How do I select Karen and not the background in this instance? Well, what I can do is I can go to the top menu and click on Select and then select Inverse. And what that does is it says anything that's not selected, select that. And anything that is selected, unselect it. It's inverting the selection. So now we have Karen selected and not the background. And I can prove that by hitting delete. Bonk. The exact opposite thing is selected. It's a negative of what you've done. So I'm going to hit Control Z to bring Karen back. So select inverse is something that we'll be using a lot as we go through and edit different things, because sometimes it's easier to select the thing that you don't want than it is to select the thing that you do want. Just one more tool in our toolbox of selecting specific things in an image. Okay, now why would we want to select things in an image? So I'm going to give you a very, very quick demonstration of something ridiculous. I'm going to put this picture of Karen on top of some beans. It's a basic compositing technique. Now later, we're going to walk through how to do that step by step, and you're going to learn about all kinds of things, layers and layer masks and things. But for right now, let me just do something ridiculous and put Karen on beans so you can see what this looked like. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to delete the background. So again, select, inverse, delete. And now I'm going to deselect. So I have Karen on a transparent background. So I want to put some beans behind Karen. So all I need to do is I'm going to go to my Finder window. I have this beans image. I'm going to drag that right over here and drop it. Bonk. Now this opens something that looks confusing, but don't worry. This is called Adobe Camera Raw. We're going to learn all about this and every single tool in it later. For now, if you're following along, all you have to do is say, okay. And that's going to open this image and stick it on top of Karen. Now notice that there's this box with an X through it. It's called a bounding box. It allows us to resize and rotate and do all kinds of things. So for now, what I want to do is make these beans as big as Karen. So I'm going to drag the side, just grab one of these handles, make this big. I'm going to drag the other handle. So I'm going to make that as big as Karen. I'm going to cover her, and then I'm going to click on the checkbox so it places this, and you'll notice that I missed an edge here, so I'm going to move that over by clicking my move tool. Just move it a little bit. Okay, now I have beans over Karen, but I want Karen on the beans. So all I have to do is go over here to these layers and go like that. And I have Karen on beans. It's really ridiculous, but it's sort of fun. And you can see that we can select things and remove and add, and that way we can start doing some compositing. Now, one of the things you'll notice in this image, that when we zoom in, you'll notice that the hair doesn't show the beans through the hair. We'd like to see that. This edge is a little bit too hard. We'd like to do that in a little bit nicer way. We're going to do all of those things in coming episodes. So we're going to learn how to do that and select things that are even more specific than just outlines of people. The other thing that we have to figure out how to do is when we make mistakes, how do we undo that? Well, that's what we're going to do next. We're going to do a whole exercise on undoing things in an intelligent way.